and welcome to the Seahawks 360 podcast, where we look at the Seahawks from every angle every week. I'm Candace Hagans,
Now I'm Tino and Candace.
and we are back to discuss what is an incredible victory on the part of the Seahawks. Makes it 4 in a row. The Seahawks defeat the Arizona Cardinals on the road, 30-18. Pretty dominant win overall. I certainly had a lot of positive takeaways from this game, but Tino, how you feeling? What are your biggest takeaways?
Running game, running game, running game. Zach Charbonnet, 22 for 134 and 2 touchdowns. Had a little Kenny McIntosh sighting. Offensive line opening up holes, playing in a very cohesive way. There was synergy on the offensive line. We haven't seen that yet. Geno Smith, 24 of 30, no interceptions. Just a all around really well played game. I said mistake free earlier when we were offline. I don't think it was mistake free. I was probably mistaken in saying that, but a solid kind of game without any big misses. And I think that's the kind of football that Mike McDonald believes in. It's like the Jim Harbaugh way to play physical, play tough, and not make mistakes. You'll win a lot of ball games if your team is even slightly above average talent wise and you play mistake free football. I was impressed. This is, in my opinion, the NFC West favorite at this point in time. Just really exciting football and a brand of football that I love personally, right? Running game, toughness, physicality, good defense, right? Mistake free football is a lot of fun for me to watch. And I'm just excited. I expected this team to be pretty good. I did not expect to be 13 games in saying that this Seahawks are in first place and likely the favorite in the NFC West this season. I couldn't be more impressed at this point with the coaching staff and with this team.
Yeah, I think we should start off with probably each of us has a couple of apologies. Who are we giving our apology flowers to, at least
Ooh,
in
you
a
gonna call me
small
out like
sample
this?
size?
Yeah.
I think you are
So
giving apologies to Zach Charbonnet.
yes. So last episode, I'm talking about Zach Charbonnet. Last couple, why did we spend a round two on him? Does he have any kind of shake at all? Right. This is a very straight line looking dude. Runs with power, has some speed, but you saw him. He needed a hole, right? And I watched him at Michigan. Certainly watched him a bit at UCLA. I know he was an All-American, but I didn't see a lot. And you always wonder, are these running backs replaceable? Because you always talk about how you can find good running backs third, fourth, fifth, sixth round. Zach Charbonnet, I apologize because he came out and he ran with authority. I think his patience is something that I think we need to dig into a bit more because the way that he ran, I wonder stylistically if he's a better fit for this offensive line and for this offense in some ways compared to Kenneth Walker because you saw some of the patience he ran with and he kind of his timing in hitting the hole is different, right? The rhythm of the way he runs is different and he just looked, and I don't know if the play calling was different to suit him a bit. I assume that running inside a little bit more is something you would do with Charbonnet, but I apologize again because he looked phenomenal in this game. I left him on my fantasy bench. That was silly. Still won, so it's all good. But he looked like a star in this game, and the offensive line is gelling in a way that we haven't seen quite yet. Geno Smith made the comment after the game about really how well this line played, and the sky's the limit if the offensive line can play like this. So just exciting stuff for Seattle fans, exciting stuff for me. I'm at that point now where, obviously we all mark out the 3 hours to watch this game, right? That's important to us. For me, I'm starting to get really excited for each game, right? Where I'm like, all right, this team's going to come out. Let me watch this defense get down and hopefully the offensive line can block, but this is going to be a lot of fun. I know my team's going to be in it. That's the point we're at. To me, that's great coaching. It's good talent, obviously, but it really is great coaching to play that mistake free like they've been playing the last couple games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to your point about Zach Charbonnet, I think they ran a lot more gap centric
Hmm.
Power runs, which I think accents not just Zach Charbonnet's strengths, but I actually think it accents some of your newer offensive linemen who have stepped in. It accents Abe Lucas pretty well. It accents Satoa Lamea, who's been doing very well, I think, early, despite whatever PFF is saying. I think it. I don't really know if it accents Olu, but he's actually been able to at
He's
least
holding up.
do well. He's been able to hold up well in those
Hmm.
gap schemes. And from what I understand, I heard someone mention that I'm not going to pretend like I just have a ton of Zach Charbonnet tape from UCLA, but those counter runs were something that was his bread and butter back in college. And so it just kind of fell in with what he naturally does well. I'm interested to see, does that continue, and do they still take that same approach with a different, very different running back and Kenneth Walker if he's able to play? We will see. But you gave out apology flowers to Zach Charbonnet. I will give, at least temporarily, because those flowers can die. I will give apology flowers to Ryan Grubb.
I
Um,
can't believe you said
Flowers
temporarily.
could die, you know what I'm saying? All sample size. But I saw some encouraging things that I needed to see from
Mhm.
Ryan Grubb. He's been doing much more under center play action. He's been doing a little bit more variety when it comes to under center play action, because it was basically he was giving out way too many tendencies. I mean, it was getting to the point where I could tell if they are under center, then they're pretty much going to run. If they are under center, then it might be play action. Like, it was really like there wasn't any varieties in what he was calling. He wasn't changing things up at all, really, when he
Mhm.
was stepping outside of that comfort zone. And that's a big deal when you're imbalanced that way, because I heard it put that he's a good play designer, which I still think he has always been. But we talked about the sequencing of calls and being able to take advantage of matchups. He did that very, very well in this game. It was way more balanced. I thought he seemed to do a better job of knowing when to grind it out. For example, that last drive, I think that drive ended up being maybe 6, 7 minutes total that they were able to sort of take off the clock there in the end. And you wondered, we've seen in those situations where Ryan Grubb's been like pass, 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 and we're on like, all right, come on, guy. Like, the goal is to put the game away. And
Mhm.
so, like you said, being able to run the ball, even if, when it wasn't, I mean, in the end, they had to kick a field goal. They weren't able to score on that drive, but just the time that they killed, I hope that that was an important takeaway, because the Cardinals didn't have any time to do anything when they got the ball back, really. They were able to make some plays, but they didn't have a ton of wiggle room. Now, it was especially since they'd blown out their timeouts for no reason. But anyway, I will send apologies for now to Ryan Grubb. At least in the sense he's shown me he can add some key NFL concepts
Right.
to his playbook. And maybe they were there the whole time and they just weren't running them. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but you needed to see those things, and tip my cap to him. I need to see it more, but
Mhm.
he's restored some faith on my part.
If you look, I think the fact that he was able to adjust the scheme and the approach to a different style of running back is big, right?
Mhm.
It's to say that he's listening, he's able to adjust. He's not so hell bent on his own kind of scheme and ideas that he's plugging the wrong players into those. That's something that I think Geno Smith has talked about a lot, just how willing Ryan Grubb is to listen and engage and take feedback. And that's something that I think is really important in a leader in general, is being able to do that. The other thing is the way, like the narrative of the game or the way the game played out is, you're up 17-7 after one. You're up 24-10 after two. And I think that lends itself to running the ball, right? You still have to open holes. You still have to get first downs, but it lends itself to running the ball much, much more. And so the game, the way it played out, may have helped Ryan Grubb to call the right plays. Mike, I think Coach McDonald probably is in his ear telling him, look, I just want to run clock. I don't even care if you score. I need you to get some first downs, right? That sort of thing. I would imagine that's what Coach McDonald said. But I think it's a combination of the way the game played out helped him, but he also made the adjustments that you and I both have really been looking for from him, both with personnel and with kind of that run pass balance and pro concepts. I think we saw it all in this game. Some of that counter stuff too. I think Charbonnet is the type of back who's patient enough and wants to follow somebody into the hole. That's
Yes.
kind of, he wants to know where he's going in a lot of ways, but he's willing to be patient. He has the strength and the acceleration to be able to follow someone. And when you have some of the counter stuff, a lot of times you're following guards, right? Or you're following a tight end. You're following someone into the hole. And so that bode very well for him in this game. But yeah, I think that good coaches, great coaches are able to, obviously you need good play design, you need a baseline of like kind of who you are and identity. But when I heard Gino talk about how willing Coach Grubb is to listen to him and to adjust, that says a lot to me. And it's why I'm willing to give him one of the reasons why I'm willing to give him, I think, more leash than some others are. I think for sure he's back next year. And I think we might see him really blossom in that second year after this first year of experience.
I think this game goes a long way to him staying.
Mm-hmm.
In principle, I would agree with you, but there had been leading up to this point sort of a philosophical difference between what Ryan Grubb was actually doing and what they didn't seem to be on the same page. You hear the Ryan Grubb interview, then you hear the Mike McDonald, and really you hear them in the opposite order. But nevertheless, when asked sometimes similar questions, they had very different responses. And Mike McDonald was a little critical of the plan when we talked about those 8 attempts to get the 1 yard in the deep red or net low red zone rather. Mike McDonald was critical about our plan there, and so I think it had been getting to a point where I'm not so sure it was guaranteed because Mike McDonald will get rid of whoever.
Right.
He's made it clear he'll get rid of whoever
Right.
isn't in alignment with what he sees as his vision. And I think there was beginning to be a legitimate question: are these two philosophically enough aligned? And to Ryan Grubb's credit, he was able to show, I think, Mike McDonald something because I've never heard Mike McDonald say, I think we had a great plan on offense. I haven't
Right.
heard him say that yet to this point because I don't think it's looked the way he wants it to look. But this game he did. And that bodes well for him. He needs to show something, even if it's not as
Mhm.
consistent as we might want it to be. I think he needed to show, frankly, Mike McDonald that he could put together a game plan that aligns with his vision.
I will say that, I think when you bring in a coach that is very heavy, on one side of the ball, right? You bring in a really big offensive coach. Like I would say Ben Johnson gets a job next year. Typically an organization will try to pair that coordinator with a very or that new head coach with a very very good experienced coordinator on the other side of the ball, and they'll say, hey, Ben Johnson, or hey, Coach McDonald, your job is to build this defense. Yes, you are the CEO of the roster of this team, right? You need to take care of the entire team, but your focus is the defense. We're going to bring someone in who's going to take over the offense. Let him be for a while, right? Let him do his thing. You guys need to work together. But the reality is, I think Coach Grubb was given a ton of leeway, right, to implement his offense and implement his philosophies. And I think you're right that they didn't jive completely. And part of that is on John Schneider and bringing in someone like Ryan Grubb to pair with Mike McDonald. But I do think you're right. I think Mike McDonald probably said to him, look, man, this is my team and this is what we're going to do. We're going to run the ball more, right? We're going to be more physical. We're going to run the ball more. We're not going to air it out all the time. And against this Arizona team that I don't think can hold up against our running game, we're going to run it a lot more than we have. And so 31 attempts, right? And only one by the quarterback. So 29 running back attempts in this game. 7 for McIntosh, 22 for Charbonnet is a lot. And I think that's a really, really, really positive step for this team.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And I think that I'm not I'm not even sure that Mike McDonald really wants everything to be this run heavy. But I just think we went too far in the opposite direction, truly. Went too far in the opposite direction. And they had to figure out a way to really back in. And so really excited about that. But I also want to shout out Gino's efficiency again. Really think he had a tremendous job. I think he only had what, like 6 incompletions or something like that. Yeah, six
Mm-hmm.
incompletions
Mm-hmm.
on the day. I think his accuracy could have been a little bit better in spots, but I do truly think that it was an adjustment for him at his clock, his mental clock. He really, you can tell he wasn't used to having that much time. It almost
Right.
rattled him at times, having that much time, which is a good adjustment to have to make. Um, but I want to talk about this defense too, because for as great as the offense was in terms of showing us something that we needed to see,
Mhm.
I think the defense just continues to show that this is legit. And I think going into the preseason, we said, you know, can Mike McDonald get this team to being middle of the pack defensively? I think there's a legitimate question about, is this a top 10 defense? I think yes. The way they're playing on all, I think the way they're playing right now, they're a top five defense, frankly. If you're just
Mhm.
looking at, from the bye week on to now, they're playing like a top five defense. If you look holistically, I'm sure they do fall a little bit more middle in the middle of the pack, but
Mhm.
you have just got to be excited about the developments of these players, the impact of Ernest Jones having his interception. What a big deal that was. Great play by him. Kobe Bryant just continues to have amazing chemistry with Kyler Murray. Just him
Mhm.
and Kyler Murray. You just think they run routes, and the Kobe Bryant runs routes for Kyler the way that guy throws the ball at him because he
Right.
just threw it right to him. That pick was bad on Kyler's part. He really just threw it
Mhm.
straight to Kobe Bryant. But anyway,
This defense has one of the things that I'm noticing is there's so much talent on this defense individually that we're seeing different players really star each game.
Mhm.
And great defenses can do that, right? And it like, Derek Hall only had one tackle, but the pressure that Derek Hall put on Murray and on the pocket was really, really, really impactful in this game, right? And for a few games there, we weren't really hearing much from Derek Hall. It was all Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams has seven tackles in this game, two for loss, but he wasn't the monster that he was quite, the last couple of games. But you had Murphy showed up, right? You had Tyrese Knight have more tackles than Ernest Jones in this game. Reek Woolen looked pretty good. Julian Love had a couple of missed tackles there, but and then Spoon blew up in this game. So it's just I think there's so much talent on this defense that you don't know who's going to have the big game next. A lot of it has to do with who the offense is not keying on. But when you have a defense that's this good with this much talent, you can't double team everybody, right? You can't pick on everybody. And so it's really I think you're right. This is a now would have to look at every defense in the NFL to say whether I could say they're top five, but I for sure think it's top 10, and they're peaking at exactly the right time. This is a team that this is I think the third or fourth game in a row where I can say this defense didn't really make any big mistakes. You're going
yeah,
to give up some points, but it's a defense that is putting pressure on the quarterback, that is incredibly difficult to run against, and has enough star power and enough individual talent to make some enough big plays in a game to hold the opposition down. I just again can't say enough about Coach McDonald and the way that this team transitioned when I'm not blaming it on Tyrell Dotson and Jerome Baker, but very, very clearly this team transitioned from a defense that we had questions about to a phenomenal defense immediately when those guys left and Ernest Jones came in and Tyrese Knight was made a starter. Listen to this. The last, what is that? Last 7 games. Nah, hold on. Last 4 games, we'll go 4 games. 17 points again given up to the Niners, 6 points to the Cardinals, 21 to the Jets, 18 to the Cardinals. Those numbers aren't phenomenal, but it's so much better than what this team was doing previously. And it's so much better than what we've seen from Pete Carroll really in the last, I'd say, 4 to 5 years, right? Leading up to when he left. This defense, you can count on it, right? When you got a defense you can count on, it is you have a chance to win each and every game. This kind of defense can carry you deep into the playoffs, provided the offensive line can provide Geno some time and they can run the ball a little bit. Seahawks fans, you can start dreaming. Start dreaming. Not just next year. Start dreaming this year. Because a defense like this can carry you really, really, really far, especially as the weather gets worse and you need to be able to play with more toughness and more physicality.
yeah, no. I don't know, man. Those maybe I mean, like you said, I haven't looked that up, but those sound like top five numbers to me. Just because
Mhm.
it's the NFL. I mean, in offenses, the rules have changed to make offenses
Yes.
to give them the advantage. So
Yes.
teams regularly score 21, 24, 27 points. And so I think to still hold what they've held their opponents to, especially considering some points were specifically given up by the offense. Not everything was even like on the defense's head the past few games. No, I would say that that still sounds top five-ish, top seven, maybe
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
me in terms of production because this is an offensive league, and I mean, it may not sound phenomenal compared to Legion of Boom days, but obviously
Right.
we're in 2024, and I think that's pretty incredible over this stretch. So, to your point, I completely agree. That's a playoff caliber defense. That's a defense that can give you and they can give a team an unexpected upset. And we'll learn a lot more about this team. Really excited about this upcoming two games because it sort of has, I don't know, the Seahawks have won all of the must win games, and now you're left with a question: how good are they?
Right.
And now we're allowed to find out very quickly. We don't have to wait into the playoffs to determine how good this team is.
Mm-mm.
We're gonna know next week how good this team is against a really good Packers team, a very hot Vikings team, which they are a good team, but I still can't believe they're winning the games they're winning. But anyway, we'll get to that.
They've got the best receiver in football and a defensive coordinator that's kind of a genius, right? In Brian Flores. And but you're right. If say the Seahawks going to the if the Seahawks can beat Green Bay, Green Bay is a very good team on both sides of the ball, right? A very solid team, a great running back, very good running game, very good quarterback play. Obviously, their players in the trenches are always good, right? They invest a ton of picks on the offensive and defensive line. If the Seahawks can beat the Packers on Sunday night, again, you can dream, right?
Yep.
Dream on. If it's a close game, I expect a close game. And the Seahawks aren't going to win every close game. But again, fans, you can dream on this team. And specifically in the next year or two, this team is just going to get better, right? Now the big thing is sign Ernest Jones yesterday. Every game Ernest Jones has like he's been having, that price is going up. If it's
Mm-hmm.
me, he's probably like, no, I'm cool. I'm signing at the end of the season. But if I was him, but if I'm the Seahawks, I'm offering him yesterday, today, and tomorrow a contract extension because this dude is to me he's the straw that stirs the drink. He's our Roquan Smith, right? He really, really, truly is.
Yep.
Um, and he's the one who's turned this game. The other thing is, how many mistakes have we seen him make? How many times did we see Tyrell Dotson in the wrong hole, or the running back running past him, or Coach McDonald being frustrated with him? Have we seen Ernest Jones in the first like 4 or 5 games do that once? I haven't. He might get blocked.
Maybe game one, but I mean, it was literally his first
He
game,
didn't
and
know where to
it
go.
wasn't that big of
Dotson
a
was trying to
deal.
tell him where to go.
Right. Yeah.
And now he's so stout. That's the other thing is sometimes you have these really great linebackers that can fill and can tackle and all those things. They got the great tackle numbers, but they get run over every once in a while. This dude is strong. He's nasty. He's a leader. I love. He might be my favorite defensive player already. I love Spoon. I'll never give up Spoon, but Ernest Jones is the truth. We got lucky with him.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. And I'll tell you why I like that Roquan compare. Obviously, Ernest Jones is not Roquan Smith. Roquan is a better player.
Right.
But I'll tell you why the impact matters just as much. Because I always felt like post McDonald hire that the commentary around that Baltimore defense was that, well, they have all this talent and the Seahawks don't have that talent. And then
Right.
I was always I always confused me because if you looked on that roster even like a year ago, it's a bunch of no-name guys. Like those guys had talent, but they weren't established in any sort of way other than just what I feel like and what we're seeing now being big beneficiaries of the Mike McDonald defense. Because what's
Yep.
happened since he's gone, they're struggling. And so I think Mike McDonald having talent that frankly already had good reputations before he ever stepped foot on that field. I think collectively the Seahawks, hot take maybe, But I feel like the Seahawks had more talent on paper and more like high. I mean, Devin Witherspoon, number five overall pick. Like they just had higher talent, more upside, and in some ways had younger players than the Ravens defense. So you didn't need a guy the caliber of a Roquan Smith to unlock the same effects. You just needed a tier below, maybe something like that that unlocked the rest of this talent because there was other established young stars before Mike McDonald got here, and so it didn't take as much to get to that same level, in my opinion.
I, I didn't think about comparing the two, but I think you're spot on because, you look at that Ravens defense and you have Matabuike, but Matabuike wasn't anything really until Coach McDonald got there. You
Exactly.
have Owe on the outside, who's is really fast, but doesn't get a ton of sacks. Marlon Humphrey, I think, is overrated a little bit because of his, his first couple years in the league. He's good. He's not great anymore. You have some no-name players. Mike, Pierce on the inside is a house, right? And
Yeah,
he's hard to
for sure.
move. And the Seahawks are lacking that a little bit, having that big, huge nose tackle. And obviously Kyle Hamilton is a star. But when you compare those two defenses,
Yes,
there were some stars. What's that?
I don't know. Kyle Hamilton doesn't look like Kyle Hamilton, is all
Not
I'm
this
saying.
year, no. But and that might be the product of Coach McDonald. Now their D coordinator might be trash too, and so they
Yes.
went from great to zero. But your point is very, very well taken. That he walked in and he saw this. This is part of why he took the job.
Hmm.
He walked in knowing that you had talent at all three levels. He walked in knowing he had Witherspoon to work with, and he didn't have a scrub on the other side. He had Reek. And you have a very good. He knew Julian Love was better than we thought he was, right?
Right.
Walking in, and then to draft Byron Murphy and to have Leonard Williams resign and all those things. Yes, I think this team is defensively is more talented than the Ravens. I think he knew that going in, and so you don't need that quarterback in the middle. You
Hmm.
don't have to trade. What did they trade for Roquan? They traded a lot for Roquan to the
The
to the Bears,
first, I think, and
if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
You don't need that dude. Although I think you could make the argument that Ernest Jones is now that dude, but he wasn't when he came to the Seahawks in some ways. So yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, and I think it does truly speak to the talent of Mike McDonald and his ability to coach defense that he can walk in and make this team, as good as they are defensively in 13 games. It's super, super, super impressive. Super impressive. Now, my one concern with the team at this point is the offensive line who we saw in this game, or is the offensive line who we've seen in some previous games, right? The optimist in me says this is progression. This is Laumea with another game under his belt. This is Oluwatimi showing that he can at least hold up a little bit. This is Abe Lucas staying healthy. That's the optimist in me. The pessimist is we don't ever get a great offensive line in Seattle. We don't even get an average one in Seattle. That's just who we are by definition. And we got lucky because this Cardinals team isn't great in the front seven, right? In fact, it's one of the worst front sevens talent wise in football, in my opinion. And so it was more a product of the Cardinals not being very good on defense than it was the Seahawks offensive line being good. Whatever the case is, I'm looking forward against the Packers. I want this line to hold up. If this line can hold up against a pretty good Packers front seven, then we're in business. But there's still reason for tons of optimism. But getting back to your point, I loved your point. I loved your point in comparing the Seahawks defense to the Ravens. I loved your point in saying they don't need a Roquan Smith. They just happen to luck into one for a fourth round pick.
Yeah. No, to answer your question about the offensive line, here's my guess. I'm going to take a shot, call a shot, and guess. You see regression in the run game. I think that was an incredible run game. I don't think they're going to be able to do that well, but I do think that the Cardinals had a formidable run defense, or at least they were developing that. And so I think they at least played a respectable run defense. From a pass rush perspective, it might be a different thing because I that's always been an issue for the Cardinals. That pass, they were really blitzing in order to get pressure. They never had the talent to really win one on one. Now, you like to see this offensive line be able to take advantage of that because, frankly, it didn't used to matter. So I think there will still be quite a bit of inconsistency, but I think we're closer to functional than we've been all year. I think
That's a
that
great
right.
word. That's a great word for the offensive line. That is a just get to functional,
Yes.
right? You get to functional, meaning Gino has enough time for the patterns to develop. Doesn't mean he gets any more time than that. It's just he's got to go boom, boom, boom through his progression and get the ball out. If you
Yep.
can get to that point and get to a point where the running backs aren't getting completely stuffed on every single run, you
Hmm.
might be able to get 3 runs or 3 yards a pop.
Yep.
To that point, we're in business. With that defense, we're in business.
3 yards in a cloud of dust. I'll take it. They used to get on my nerves with Pete Carroll,
Right
but
here, three
I'll
yards in a
take it.
cloud of dust. I'm about it.
Now I think
About it.
they'll still need to mix in quite a bit of pass game. I think that'll still probably end up being their strength. But you also saw some more creativity from Ryan Grubb
Mhm.
with that sweep there to get Zach Charbonnet in that first touchdown. I think was a really good play. It
Yeah.
obviously would have got stuffed at the line of scrimmage. Good job on their part for anticipating that. You want to see more of that, I think, too. I'd love to see Ryan Grubb open up the playbook for this final. They talked about at the bye week that they simplified everything for both offense and defense, and I think defensively that was the absolute right call.
Mhm.
Offensively, that was probably not the right call because they were giving off too many tendencies anyway, and then when you simplified everything, just made things a way easier for the defense. At least give them a variety of things to think about. If you don't have the talent, just switching things up, catching teams off guard can get you a play here or play there that can make the difference in the game when you do have a good defense. So that's my hope. That I think we saw some examples of that. And I think that's repeatable if Mike McDonald gives them the okay to okay, yeah, let's go back to some of the things we were doing earlier because frankly, they were really pretty successful like through the first 4 weeks offensively. Can we break some of those things out and catch some teams off guard? I would say that that's a great strategy.
This sounds really simple to say, but if you can run the ball at all, if there's a threat of running the ball, it opens up the pass game. I think
Yes.
it's sometimes we get so caught up in every little detail, and I think it's really simple. If imagine you're a linebacker or a safety, right? If you can't assume that the team is going to pass all the time, and you've got to be honest with the running game. It really changes, what an offense can do. You can go over the middle 10, 12 yards down because the linebackers are attacking because you've been able to run the ball successfully. I'm not, this isn't any new stuff for people, right? Everybody knows this. But I think it's very obvious to me that when this team is balanced, right, and has some success with each, it's such a different team. The offense takes such a different complexion when you can run the ball just a little bit. So my hope is that he gets the message from this game, meaning Ryan Grubb, and they continue to run the ball. I hope that, again, apologies to Zach Charbonnet. I hope we see more Charbonnet in positions to succeed, right? Not stuff that's always outside where he's got to use his, all that canine stuff. That's good for canine. That's not good for Charbonnet.
Yep.
Let's see Charbonnet in some slower developing type runs where he can follow someone into the hole and do all the things that he likes to do. Man, I'm about that. So again, I hope that they continue to play with this balance. I hope that DK doesn't get mad that he's not getting as many targets as he might want because this is winning football. It's a winning formula. This is winning football. Can I
Yep.
ask you something?
Yeah.
So Green Bay on Sunday night, okay. Then you've got Minnesota at home, 1 o'clock game. Then the day after Christmas, you're in Chicago for a 5:15 start, and then you're at the Rams to close the season out. How many of these games do the Seahawks get? At Green Bay,
Um,
at home against Minnesota, at Chicago, at the Rams.
I hate answering this question because I don't think I have enough information. I'm gonna gut check 2-2, but I think I really need to see how they look against the Packers to really know because I don't know how good this team is. It was almost like a as optimistic as it was, a little bit of a false start just because I don't think as highly. I think the Cardinals had a hot streak, but I wasn't as high on. I've never been as high on the Cardinals as I guess the media was.
Have been.
So I really do kind of also take it with a grain of salt. There's some things that will carry over, other things I worry won't, and I don't know where that leaves this team in terms of how good they really are. But I'll go 2-2 because I think they can. I was a little nervous about that Bears game. I still am, but this team's been very good on the road, and they haven't seemed to let those type of circumstances affected them.
Right.
So I probably give them the Bears and Rams game, maybe losing to the Packers and Vikings at home, but it could be any number of combinations. Frankly, it's almost like I view this team as 0-0 a little bit because I don't know.
Well, another thing is the Seahawks are game up on the Rams, but they dropped that first game to the Rams, right?
Right, exactly.
So really, I think what this season comes down to ultimately is that game in LA
Week 18.
on January 5th. That's what the
Yep.
season it likely will come down to because even if you have a one game lead, the head to head is the first tiebreaker, right? And so if the Rams win that game and tie, say the Seahawks come in and they're what are they be 10-6, right? Both teams 10-6. If the Rams can rattle off the next three, then you have to have that game, right? Even if they go two, even if they're 9-7, you still have to have that game. So likely that is what this season is going to come down to is that last game against the Rams. I think they have you're right. This Green Bay game is going to tell me a lot. If they can win and they can play again mistake-free football or some semblance of it, then I have confidence that they might take these last three games or the last three games after that. But if they come in making some mistakes or showing, offensive line gets ran over a little bit, I'm not quite sure. So, real quick, the Rams have at San Francisco, which I don't think is a gimme, right? I
Mm-mm.
think that playing at San Francisco is never going to be easy. They've got pride, still a very good team. At the Jets, now that's probably a win for the Rams. The Jets are kind of giving up. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Rodgers. And then they play the Cardinals at home and the Seahawks at home, but the Cardinals probably will still have something to play for in that game, right? So I think they will. I think they will. And if they come in and they have something to play for, well, let's see what they have left because they don't have much left either. They got New England at Carolina and then that Rams game. They're likely winning those two games, even
Yeah.
though Carolina looks okay. I just think it's still up for grabs. Again, the Seahawks are the favorite in my mind, but they're the favorite providing they win that last game against the Rams in Week 17.
Yeah, that's why I can't quite get us at the favorite. I think I would have felt way better about it had the Bills taken care of business last night. Um,
Which is crazy, right?
lose
That
to
the
the
Bills
Bills.
lost. I was so mad. I was so mad at
Yeah,
that game. I was mad at that game.
yeah, me too. Yeah, they 100% dropped the ball on that, and let us all down. So
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I think we would have been the favorites had we had that extra margin of error. We don't have that margin for
Right,
error anymore. So
right.
still dead heat in the NFC West. It'll be really interesting. I mean, it's always fun when down the stretch every game is meaningful, even if it's not like the Cardinals and the Panthers, right? I mean, that's meaningful because they're not mathematically out of it. I think for all intents and purposes are out of it because I don't think they take that's why I said I don't know. There's a question because if they were in the chase for a wild card spot, maybe I'm not sure that they will be, but because I don't think they're winning the division. But anyway,
That's fair.
good stuff, man. I know we got to hop off a little short of an episode. Really just wanted to give you, quick reaction, our thoughts initially, and go from there. But man, tell Tino, tell the people where they can find you at, and we'll go ahead and get us out of here.
Yes. So Blue Sky, Tino Jr. 20, TINOJR20. Candace and I are both on the Seahawks Blue Sky or Seahawks 360 Blue Sky account, doing our live tweeting. But you can find me there, baseball stuff, lots of baseball numbers coming out, finishing up all the hitters in my database. It's probably a good, I don't know, 30, 40 hours worth of work. That's been a lot of fun. You got a query, you want to know about some stats, let me know. But just excited. Seahawks, obviously so much fun. Holidays coming. Life's good. Can't complain. Work's rough, but life's good. It's all
I feel
good.
that. I feel that, man. You can find the show at Seahawks 360 Pod on X or Twitter. And you can find us on Blue Sky at Seahawks 360. So please be sure to follow the show. Do try to live tweet, building that page up over at Blue Sky. Especially would love to get and have conversations with you guys. Give us your feedback on the show. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that good stuff. We really appreciate it. That's it. That's all the time we have for today. We're out. And as always,
Go Hawks.